This is the Samsung Galaxy Book 6 Ultra, and it is basically the closest you're gonna get to a Windows MacBook. And with a full redesign and some very impressive specs, it looks really promising. But it also has a hefty price tag attached to it, so is it worth it? Let's find out. And please like and subscribe if you like these type of videos. From the outside, the Book 6 Ultra is a tank. It's got a fully aluminum body from top to bottom and it feels very sturdy. It doesn't bend, it doesn't flex, and it'll probably survive a fall or two. It looks very professional and has a nice sleek design on the inside too. Like I said, it's basically a Windows MacBook. And for what's inside this thing, it's pretty damn thin. And it's also relatively lightweight, but I have seen lighter laptops with these specs. But it is a true wolf in sheep's clothing, because this thing has one of the new Intel Ultra 7 300 chips and an RTX 5070. It is the older 8GB 5070 unfortunately, so it doesn't get that full 12 gigs. And it's only got a TGP of 90 watts maximum. I mean, it is a thin laptop. But that new Intel chip should be pretty impressive, both in terms of performance and efficiency. But we'll have to see when we get to actual benchmarks. For its port selection, the Book 6 Ultra has pretty much everything you could ever need, minus maybe an Ethernet port. It only charges through USB-C and supports up to a 140 watt power brick. If you live in the EU, you do not get this charging brick in the box. This is due to a new law that the European Union signed that means that laptops don't have to come with a charging brick anymore. Because it's good for the environment and you probably already have a charging brick at home. Yeah, EU, who doesn't have a 140 watt USB-C power brick at home? So I had to buy it separately, on top of the already almost $4,000 for this laptop. With this brick, it is pretty nice that all the weight is on the plug side. I mean, I personally don't really like having a weight in the middle of your charger. You can use other USB-C chargers as well, but they might not work up to 140 watts, which makes this new law extra stupid. Alright, let's look at its keyboard. At first, I didn't really like this design, but after a while, I think it looks pretty cool. It does have a white keyboard backlight, which is nice for typing in the dark, and here's what the actual keys are like. These keys are super shallow and have very little key travel. If you've ever used a MacBook keyboard, it's basically like that. But I really don't like this, and I prefer my keyboards to have a little more key travel. I mean, I constantly miss key presses on it, and I don't really know where my hands are on this keyboard. Moving down, we have its trackpad. And this thing is amazing. I'm pretty sure this is the largest trackpad I've ever seen on a laptop. And it's not a diving board, it's actually got haptic touch. Which means you can click down on it anywhere, even fully at the top. It's made of glass too, so it feels very sturdy. And the tracking feels very accurate. It's got basically zero delay. And overall, at least in my opinion, this is the best trackpad on any Windows laptop right now. Moving up, we have its display. And again, this is about the best panel I have ever seen on a Windows laptop. I mean, it is ridiculous. It is an AMOLED screen, so it's got very vibrant colors, infinite contrast, and like always, blacks are actually black. It gets super bright at up to 1000 nits, which you can force in the settings, and with a 120Hz refresh rate, it's very smooth. And in my opinion, more than good enough for even competitive gaming. And games do look gorgeous on this panel, like really pretty. It's also got a very high resolution, so you're basically never gonna see any pixels, even if you sit super close. But it's got these rounded corners, which do look super cool, like on a MacBook, but it's just not very handy with Windows, since content in the very corners actually get blocked by the lack of pixels here. But at least Samsung knows damn well that people actually use their laptop outside as well. So they added a very good anti-reflective layer to this display. I'm pretty sure this is the same coating that the Zephyrus laptops from Asus use, which are pretty much the best we've seen. The display can open up pretty far, but not all the way, unfortunately. And while the hinge itself does feel very premium while opening and closing it, and while you can open and close it very easily with one hand, it's pretty damn wobbly, which is very annoying if you ever use your laptop on the move. The Book 6 Ultra also has a touchscreen, and probably the most responsive touchscreen I've ever felt on a Windows laptop. But again, that wobbly display makes it pretty annoying to actually use. Alright, so far everything's looking really good. But Samsung gave this year's design some very prominent speaker grills next to the keyboard. So how do they sound? These speakers sound amazing. This laptop's got both up-firing speakers and down-firing subwoofers on the bottom, so it's got some super punchy bass, and overall sounds really clear. I mean, this is MacBook level audio, and overall, these might be the best Windows laptop speakers so far. The Book 6 Ultra's webcam is a little mediocre. It's 1080p and doesn't have the best colors, but it doesn't look bad. The microphone sounds pretty clear, but I have heard better from other laptops. But I know what you all care about, performance. And while the Book 6 Ultra does have very impressive specs, it's still a thin laptop, and with only 90 watts for that 5070, does it perform well? Well, in Cinebench R23, that new Ultra 7 does perform quite well, but it's clear that it's being held back by its wattage, because in both single and multi-core performance, it's being beat by chips from last year. But in 3D Mark TimeSpy, it does score quite well, placing it between other slightly wattage limited 5070 laptops and full wattage 5060s. So you can see those wattage limitations, but it's still quite fast. But we need to see how it handles mixed CPU and GPU workloads. And while this isn't really a gaming laptop, a lot of people still want to see how it handles some actual games.
What did you do, man? No!
So the Book 6 Ultra can still play games pretty damn well. Most games ran well above 60 FPS, but 2880 by 1800p is a very high resolution, so more graphically demanding games did dip below 60. But at 1200p, it was solid. Every game ran above 60 FPS, and you gained quite a bit more performance by lowering the resolution a bit. And I would recommend doing that here, because at 16 inches, you barely see the difference between 1200p and 1800p in games. But I want to look under the hood and see how wattage limited that 5070 really is. Well, it does get capped quite hard. in Cyberpunk and most GPU intensive games, it maxes out between 75 and 85 watts. And with a 5070 being able to go up to 115 watts, that's quite the difference. But what I'm really impressed by is how efficient that Ultra 7 is. I mean, during gaming, it can run on as low as only 18 to 20 watts. And even with these harsh limitations, it still ran every game and program perfectly fine. So yes, while it is being held back, you're not gonna notice that at all. But that does beg the question of how it gets rid of all that heat in such a thin body. Well, luckily, this thing has a vapor chamber, which makes getting rid of heat quite a lot easier. And believe it or not, it actually stays cooled very well. That Ultra 7 processor never went any higher than 86 degrees Celsius. And its RTX 5070 stayed at a maximum of between 84 and 86 degrees. I did see that GPU thermal throttle once in a blue moon, and then it did lower its wattage to like 75 watts. But from its overall temperatures, it's clear that this thing is not really reaching its limit. And it does have great thermal regulation, so it never went above what it was designed to do. But what does that mean for noise? Well, while it can make some noise, it's quite a lot quieter than a gaming laptop. And during normal lighter use, it just stays completely silent. However, I did notice quite a big downside. While playing heavy games like Cyberpunk, the keyboard got uncomfortably hot around the WASD area, and especially hot around the middle of the keyboard. Some gaming laptops fix this by pulling air through the keyboard for more cooling and to cool the keyboard as well, but I don't think the Galaxy Book does this, so it gets quite warm. Yes, it's not really meant to be a gaming laptop, but it is something you will notice. Now, this new series of Intel chips is heavily marketed towards a single point: efficiency. So how is this thing's battery life? Well, I tested its battery life in two different scenarios: under light use and during gaming. In the light use test, I played a YouTube video until its battery died, with the display at 80% brightness, at 60 Hz, and with the keyboard backlight turned off. And the Galaxy Book 6 Ultra lasted almost 17 hours. Yes, playing a YouTube video on Google Chrome is not a very intensive task, but the fact that you can even produce these kind of numbers in actual real-world use is just ridiculous. When you're actively doing work on it, this number is likely going to be closer to 8 or 9 hours, but that is still amazing. And I'm really excited to see how the other Intel chips from this lineup will do. In the gaming test, I played Minecraft until its battery died with the same settings as before. And here, it didn't really last that long, a little over 2 hours. So why does it last so much shorter while playing games? Well, this laptop does not have a dedicated mux switch, so you can't manually turn off its GPU. So when you're playing a game, it's just gonna keep that RTX 5070 on, which uses quite a lot more power. Yes, there are technically ways to manually turn off that GPU, but none of those ways are quick or easy. So playing games on the go is just not this thing's strongest suit. Now, the year is 2026, and laptop upgradeability is pretty much dying. And this is a thin and light laptop, so it shouldn't have much space for modular components. But not everything is soldered to the motherboard. It does have two M.2 SSD slots, so you don't have to replace the Windows drive to get more storage. But the RAM is fully soldered, so you can't get more memory, and even the Wi-Fi card is soldered, although it does have Wi-Fi 7, so that isn't a huge issue. What is a huge issue, and will probably be the only reason why you wouldn't buy this laptop, is its pricing. This model with an RTX 5070 is $3,600 in Europe. It is less in the US, but that's probably just because these prices are excluding taxes. Now, this laptop did just release, so it's likely still gonna get cheaper. But historically, the Galaxy Book Ultra has always been expensive, so I wouldn't expect too much of a price drop. There are cheaper models with an RTX 5060, or even one with the new Ultra X7 chip, which has one of the fastest integrated GPUs. But again, those are still pretty damn expensive. I'll still put some links down in the description for if you're interested. Which brings us to our much needed conclusion. Is the Samsung Galaxy Book 6 Ultra worth it? Well, purely speaking in terms of value, no, I don't think so. For the exact price of this laptop, you can buy a Zephyrus G16 with an RTX 5080. And that thing's performance will blow this out of the water. But without looking at its price, the Galaxy Book 6 Ultra might be the most well-rounded Windows laptop ever. It has a gorgeous, high-resolution, high frame rate display that gets really bright with a good anti-reflective layer. It has maybe the best speakers on any Windows laptop. It has the best trackpad on any Windows laptop. And it's built well, it's pretty thin and portable. Yes, its performance is being limited a bit, but it can play most games and run most applications perfectly well, even at its high resolution. The only real downside to this thing is that it gets a little hot while playing heavy games. But other than that, this laptop comes close to perfection, and I can absolutely call it the MacBook of Windows laptops. It's just too bad that it costs so much. Which brings me to a very important question. How does it compare to the Zephyrus G16? Because the G16 is the direct competition to this thing. It also does basically everything right, but at a way lower price. And theoretically, it should absolutely crush this thing in terms of value. But let's compare them in the next video in full detail and see what happens. Now let me give a huge shout out to my YouTube members. Soundwife, Thomas, Inky, Mr. Frostydude, Dropzone1, Martijn Snijkers, Flimsy, Aki, Mr. Nuke, Sebastian, Christian Sands, Real Elf, Eric the Rad, Wesley Rhodes, Ghost Data, Walter, Anugadar, Abdullah, Lewis and Ethan. If you become a YouTube member, you get early access to content of mine, a shout out at the end of every video, and you'll also be supporting me as a creator to make these videos. And of course, you'll also be part of the Cool Guys Club, so you can use cool emojis like these in the comment section. So join the club if you're interested. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.
I made it to the bonfire. Okay.